to become a breeding ground for the devil.
You're a spiritual whore. You filthy thing.
The series that had everyone vomiting around the water cooler on a double DVD collector's edition. Over an hour and a half of bonus footage, the uncensored Rove Fatwa story, and a Bible full of bonus exorcism scenes. John Safran vs. God, the double DVD out now.
This is powerful stuff. Oh, man.
Father Bob, what do you have there?
Here's one for you. Have you had a near-death experience?
Yes.
You're supposed to say no so that I can continue the story.
Why no?
Bob, what near-death experience did you have?
Sorry, I wasn't really that concerned.
Doesn't matter, I'll just be a ventriloquist.
What near-death experience have you had?
When I was 16,
yes,
I was at the Richmond swimming pool. The reason why I'm telling this is because, for viewers, as you know, one of Australia's leading citizens recently died.
Kerry Packer?
Yes, and he had a near-death experience, and he came back and he said, guess what, folks, there's no effing thing on the other side.
You disagree?
Now, I think maybe if you go to the other side with nothing much, except money, you may well find there's nothing on the other side.
Is that the lesson?
What did I see when I went to the other side? Because I jumped in this 6 foot of water, the Richmond Baths.
Yes.
Couldn't swim. Why did I jump? Another story, another series. All right? Drown.
You drowned?
Body taken from
No way.
Yeah, from pool. Bang, hit head on...
When they're dragging you out, yeah.
Worse.
That's
home.
fun.
What did I think about during the period of my near-death experience?
But have you recovered what? There was like mouth-to-mouth and stuff?
We didn't have it in those days.
Well, how did you come back to life?
You just waited to see if it was your turn or not.
What, I bet it was smelling salts back in your day. Some like lady with a parasol
Well, they
came
probably
over
called the priest to me.
Yes. Anyway, you wake up, and what did you remember?
No, I remembered seeing an icon. Beautiful, and also a voice. And also, my last thought, as it were, before I slipped over into the other side, was, bugger it, I'm supposed to play cricket on Sunday.
Do you want an insight into my self-absorption? This is what happened in my near-death experience. I was in my Nissan Micra, and I was driving. A truck swipes me. I'm smashed into a telephone pole, you know, like, and I'm just totally knocked out, right?
Yeah.
I'm dragged out of the car, put in the back of the ambulance, and I'm lying there. I'm still totally knocked out. And then the first thing I hear a voice, and it's one of the ambulance. He goes, "I really like that thing you did with Ray Martin." And because I'm such an egomaniac, someone flattering me, I had to come back so I could, you know, soak in the glory of someone complimenting me about my work.
So that's the way to bring them all back.
Bob,
the elixir of life.
Can you go on to the first news story, please?
One of the sons of Australia's celebrated former Defence Force Chief, Peter Cosgrove, will be discharged from the Army after going AWOL from his barracks and being thrown into a military jail.
Father Bob, is your family proud of you?
I don't know.
What do you mean you don't know?
They're Australians. They don't tell anybody they're proud.
You don't get any feedback?
Oh, minimal, but the Australians are not...
Didn't your brother have a problem with you becoming a priest?
1950, for God's sake. That's past history.
Is it really past history? Have you patched things up with your brother over this tension about you becoming a priest?
It never occurred to me.
To patch up with your brother?
What have you been ringing my brother and speaking secretly to him, for God's sake?
Well, I know, Bob, I happen to know it's a bit of a sensitive issue.
There's a beat-up, folks, a beat-up.
It's not a beat-up. Don't you think most people feel they need a little vindication from their family for their life choices?
I don't know. We were brought up in the old school. We never got vindication from anybody, my son.
I feel bad when my dad's kind of
Mr.
grumpy at me.
Mr. Packer never got vindication from his daddy.
Well, exactly. Very interesting you bring that up. They wrote about Kerry Packer that his whole life he was trying to please his dead father.
That's what they write. Now, what the truth is, we will never know. Until the end. That's what the end's for.
Bob, I heard Rolf Harris on ABC Radio this week. It was a fascinating interview. He was talking about how at this point in the 80s, when he was really down on, his career wasn't going well. He got this new manager who said to him, look, you're doing all these charity things. You should charge for doing these charity things.
Yeah, that would be nice.
Because they're still, the charity's still going to earn a lot of money and stuff like that. And you get paid a fee. And he said it turned his whole career around. Is that ethical or unethical? Or not Rolf Harris specifically, but to sort of give the impression you're representing a charity for free, but you're really getting some bucks.
Yes,
and Tony Blair's wife got in a bit of controversy.
Yeah, that was a bit... I didn't realise that happened. I thought people came around the world to say good things for a cause, and if you paid their airfare and all the rest of it, that was enough for them. But it's not, apparently. No. Whereas it's enough for me.
The confusing thing was then, later in the interview, Rolf Harris started going on about Planet Ark and how good that was, and then I was like, hang on, so what happens there? Yeah. Is this something he's just saying for good, or is he getting some bucks from Planet Ark?
Yeah, I understand what you were saying. Well, people should, in fact, and I encourage people to be a bit forensic in this.
It really is a genuine issue, and it's just not often spoken about in all these different kind of environments.
Should be spoken about many,
For example,
many times.
I used to work at community radio, and it was just this constant, minor tension, who gets paid? Why do those people get paid, and why are those people volunteers?
Yeah,
and it was
I can understand the same as in the church.
Yes.
I mean, I'd like to ask all kinds of questions of church administrators as to how much money goes on that, who paid for the glossy magazines.
Does your altar server get paid?
I sling him and we pay him.
Is that cash in hand?
I sling him and he gets paid as well.
Cash in hand.
I sling, if you're an Australian, you understand the meaning of the word.
A bit of a black market economy going on there in South Melbourne.
S-L-I-N-G. I believe everybody, especially these days, is entitled to be paid something.
I understand.
Of course he might be subject to GST. Thank you, John Safran.
Now, Bob, when you're young, you're given the choice, are you going to be for social justice, and if so, become a left-wing pinko, or are you going to be a realist and think about yourself and become a conservative? But some argue there is another option. If you're for social justice in the world, for helping the poor and marginalised, you should be conservative. Joining us is Andrew Bolt, columnist for the Herald Sun. I want to know, why, if I care about third world people living in poverty, should I become conservative? Aren't the Conservatives the ones that are making sweatshops happen?
I don't run a sweatshop myself. But even with a sweatshop, you're saying, in fact, that you're looking at a situation where someone's invested in a third world country offering employment that wasn't there before. Now, you may say, oh, that's terrible. Terrible that they're offering lower wages than in the first world country. But in fact, the reason that the people are working there is that they're getting a job they would otherwise not have, or a wage they would otherwise not be able to earn at that level. And I think that's good.
And are you saying that therefore that whole left-wing pinko anti-globalisation argument is bad for people on the ground in the third world?
It's like this. I think there's a difference between people who want to seem good and the people more concerned to have good done. And one is essentially selfish, like it's about them, and the other doesn't seem quite so self-advertising because it's about someone else. That's the difference.
So you've decided to become conservative for reasons of compassion. It's not just, someone like me could make money and... And then kind of as a marketing thing, I'll say it's good for the third.
No, I'm in it for the money. Yeah, I've got not an altruistic bone in my body. No, of course. Look, I often think that what differentiates the real, loud social justice person and the conservative is not the aim necessarily, but the means to get there. And it's like when I criticised Make Poverty History campaign. I said it wouldn't work. Remember that, that click, Make Poverty History?
Yes.
Well, that hasn't worked, has it? I mean, I just came back from Afghanistan. I tell you, poverty wasn't made history this year. It wasn't. And I just think my criticism there is that you're not looking at the real causes of poverty. And if you don't look at the real causes of poverty, you might feel good, but you've achieved nothing.
You might notice that I'm being very quiet.
Why is that? Because you're worried Andrew
Well,
Bob
I'm
going to write a
nervous, you
column
see,
on you.
because Andrew is a very good, powerful writer and advocate for the conservative point of view. And
Why should that worry you? Why should that worry you?
Well, because I'm going to get done over here. Because
Only on the
I'm an
facts.
activist, you see, not an
So am I.
ideologue.
So am I.
But what do you do in the trenches, apart from write?
Oh, well,
See, I'm in the
donate.
trenches and I get told, no, forget donate, I mean dirty the hands on location.
I admire you.
No, you're getting defensive now.
No, I
See what
said,
I
no,
mean?
well, how's that defensive? I said, I admire you.
Yeah, but my point
You're being
is I
defensive.
shouldn't be afraid to engage in dialogue with you
No, you shouldn't.
because we need each other and both sides need each other. What worries me about you, Andrew, is in fact you tend to be an agent for division. Now, that's not your aim, maybe. Or would you be satisfied, in fact, if you divided the sheep from the goats?
So I'm an agent of division, whereas you aren't.
No, we didn't say that.
I thought you just said.
No, I said you are. I didn't say that I wasn't or was.
Look,
You're powerful, you see. I haven't got the pen in the newspaper. I don't write articles for that.
Hey, number
Hey, which
3
one's been-
podcast. Number 3 podcast. this week.
Podcast at the Sun. I read I read him every time he's in the paper, and I like it.
No, sometimes you don't, Bob. I've seen your website. But listen, in terms of divisiveness, who's been divisive here?
Have you ever turned down a job or money on ideological grounds?
No.
What do you got on your mind?
Oh, I don't know. Maybe you thought, I'm not going to work for the ABC or something like that.
Oh, no. I believe, like Bob, I believe in going into hostile areas and preaching, because, the ABC and the SBS do not hear enough to challenge, just to give people an alternative, to say, well, look, that person, that idea is not absolutely crazy and evil. It's worth considering to humanise it. And you actually get in the universities and ABC and SBS and that kind of thing, a kind of groupthink. You just do. And you get in social circles like actors, for example. When was the last actor that you can think of in Australia that said, John Howard's not bad? I vote
That guy
Liberal.
from Big Brother. There was a guy from Big Brother.
Oh, he's an actor now, is he?
Yeah,
But you see what I mean?
Yes.
The groupthink among certain social circles is just overwhelming. It's extraordinary. You have rallies, artists for Labor, but you don't have any rallies, artists for the Liberals. The thing is, there are areas of groupthink and it desperately needs challenging. I really do think that.
Thank you very much, Andrew.
It's a pleasure to both of you. Thank you very much.
Now, Bob, what's the worst feedback you've got thus far for appearing on this show?
Oh, I haven't received much negative feedback, except they say they don't like you attacking me.
Yes.
I have said to them that this is perfectly respectable.
Really? Because most of the feedback I've got is that I rock.
Yeah,
And it's you and your grumpy little attitude to life that is dragging it down. Do you know what I have to put up with? Honest to God, this guy at a Hanukkah do last night came up to me, a Jewish guy.
Yes.
He came up to me and he said, there's a station ID at the moment on SBS where it's like a mosquito and it's like sucking the blood out of the SBS logo. And then he makes this connection that somehow because in classic European anti-Semitic literature, the Jews were the bloodsuckers of the Christians, that somehow SBS is surreptitiously and nastily trying to put that message out. He said to me, John, be careful you don't become a stooge. That he said, be careful, because he thinks that SBS kind of has this bad thing about the Jews, that they're not just getting you on to look like an idiot and make the Jews look bad.
Yeah.
That's what I have to put up with every day, living in the East St Kilda Jewish community.
Oh, I don't have... I'm not being rung up every day or approached every day by somebody to say I think that Catholicism is hemorrhaging badly because you're being nibbled to death by a duck, which is you.
I haven't... Oh, I'm the duck in that. I thought
and you're nibbling, and I don't know I'm being nibbled to death until I've gone home and somebody says, my God, what happened to you? You've got blood all over your back. And I said, I've been on the show with Safran. Oh, they said you've been just nibbled to death by a duck.
Bob, I've noticed issues between you and the church dog Franklin. Mm-hmm. Please introduce our guest.
We've got Deb McBride in the studio, who comes from northern New South Wales. She's an animal channeler, and oftentimes pet owners consult with her to find out how their pets are feeling or how they're going in general.
Now, what exactly is a dog channeler?
I am communicating with them on what you would call a vibrational level for people who've got problems that might not necessarily present in a physical way.
Are you like hearing the dog like in English?
Yes, and images as well. So sometimes they'll just give you an image. There's quite a bit of interpreting that you've got to do around it, but sometimes it's very specific sentences, sometimes it's just a word.
And so how do you know you're not just like imagining it in your head?
Well, I think at first it's very difficult to decipher whether you are imagining it or whether it's true, and I think that's one of the biggest hurdles.
If there was a murder,
yeah,
and the only thing in the room was a dog, and the dog witnessed the murder, would you be able to communicate with the dog and solve the crime?
The dog would definitely have a kind of cellular imprint from the trauma, and they would have an energetic impression of the person, so that you could perhaps decipher from what they were, you know, how they were describing the person. But they wouldn't say to you, John Smith in the room was the person who did that murder. They don't think like that.
We've got some questions. I've got some questions I want you to ask Franklin.
Who?
No.
Oh, but Deborah's going to ask the
yes,
questions.
So it's going to be like a three-way interview. Franklin, are you happy with my relationship with Bob?
Yes and no. I don't know, there's an underlying wildness to you that he is nervous about.
Now, Franklin, has Bob changed since he's been on the telly?
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely, and for the best.
Oh, really? In what way?
That was really straight, very clear. He's fresher.
Oh. Franklin, is there anything you'd like to ask either Bob or me?
He's interested to know if it's an ongoing friendship.
Well, from my point of view, it was, but as we heard last week, from your point of view, not. This is my theory, Father Bob.
Look at the
now,
camera.
2 years ago, your other dog,
Oh, yes.
who was a
Standard poodle.
Standard poodle like this.
looked very similar, died.
Yeah, 20 years of age, though.
You haven't got over Rocky. That was Rocky.
Who said that?
And Franklin can pick up that you haven't got over Rocky. And you've got a television set and you've got a VCR.
Yeah, but that
and
was-
stuck in the VCR,
is
permanent,
the dog.
is the videotape of Rocky. And you always come up with some excuse to play it. It's always like if someone new comes in, you go, oh, I want to show this, I want to show
Deborah's
this.
the
You
expert
don't
on the
think
dog.
Franklin can pick up on that?
Deborah.
Ask me if he played it for me.
Did he play it for
Yes,
you?
he did.
Surely Franklin can pick up on that.
This dog-
Franklin's a very different dog to Rocky. Rocky was an intense dog that really needed that on the coalface kind of life that he had with Father Bob. This is a very, very different dog.
He's a
Very, very
spiritual
different
being.
dog. This dog is going into retirement with Father Bob.
Do you want to say thank you to the guest?
I'd
You're
like to
meant
say thank you, Deb, so much for being here, and also thank you to Franklin. Would like to say
You nearly
thank
said
you.
Rocky, didn't you?
I didn't never say Rocky. See, you've got a pathology about this Rocky. Thank you, Deborah.
Thank you, Franklin.
Thank you very much.
You know, I had a dog on television experience before this.
No, you didn't tell me that.
It was when I was very young, and Hey Hey It's Saturday was live, and they put a call out and they said, if you've got an animal at home who does tricks, bring it down to the studio. So me and my dad and my sister, we went down with Benji and the big pink Big M hula hoop that we got from the Royal Melbourne Show. Anyway, so we go on there, and I wasn't allowed in because I was under 16, but my dad and my sister went on.
The dog?
Yeah,
Was
and the
allowed
dog,
in?
Benji was allowed in because in dog years he was over 16.
Yeah.
And he jumped through the hoop several times.
Oh, he wasn't the thing they throw over the scenery at the end. That
And you know what Daryl Summers said?
Benji.
You know what Daryl Summers said?
What did he say?
said, that's lovely, you've won a box of red tulip chocolates.
And who got the chocolates, the dog or you?
Never saw the chocolates.
Oh, I see what you mean.
So,
this is a scandal. You're
20
exposing
years
it on
later,
this show, ladies
it is.
and
I'm
gentlemen.
going to have to do sort of like
Here
some
is
like Michael Moore type kind of confrontation.
Who got the chocolates when Benji was hanging around looking for a free feed?
Halliburton, I think, got the chocolate. Thank you, Father Dog. Bob, who do we have this week?
We've got Wayne Borden, who's a Pentecostal Christian. Welcome onto the show.
Thank you very much.
You're the guys who speak in tongues.
That's right, and you named the show after us. Thanks very much.
What are you channeling?
Speaking in tongues is actually your spirit communicating with God. The Bible says that we don't know how the words to speak, so the Spirit actually aids us to communicate with God. It's like not having to think about the words to pray.
What about the occult? Were you ever interested in the other side?
I grew up reading a lot of books on the occult, and I've been reflecting on that recently. But I've also grown up always believing in Jesus. I think my grandmother, she used to always talk to me about Jesus, and I actually have no memory of not believing in him. And when I turned 18, I decided I needed to step out and find a church to worship in.
Have you dated Pentecostal women in the past?
Yes, I have.
And how did that go?
Didn't work out too well. Yeah.
Have they got hang-ups? Have they got hang-ups? Pentecostal women have got different, I suppose, the eccentricities of...
Certainly when I've gone out with some Pentecostal women, I've felt under a great deal of scrutiny. But I wouldn't want to paint them, tar them with all the same brush.
What sort of, like, they're judging you, like how holy
I felt like, yeah, and maybe on material aspects as well. I mean, the prosperity doctrine which has come into the Pentecostal church perhaps has made women look through those eyes and judge men, and I don't know.
What about hobbies? Do you play soccer, softball, kangaroo cricket?
I like scuba diving. Especially with sharks, so certainly like somebody who's a bit adventurous.
Bob, if Pentecostal women want to contact Wayne, what should they do?
They should get in touch with mailbox at speakingintongues.com.au or Post Office Box 434, Prahran, Victoria 3181.
Bob, this is what was sent in this week from Matthew Sabel. Alert, but not alarmed.
Yes, short, sharp, and certainly not to the point.
From Michael Gattis via their email, come join our King congregation.
Oh, I like that. Yes, I like that.
And finally, from Nick Johnson, Mary, she's virgin on the miraculous.
I like King Kong and Faye Dunaway.
Michael Gattis, come join our King congregation up this week. If people have a billboard for you?
Mailbox at speakingintongues.com.au or Post Office Box 434 Prahran, Victoria 3181.
Thank you, Father Bob.
Thank you, John Safran.
Now, you don't drink, do you, Bob?
I don't drink now.
Hang on.
Once upon a time in a land far away.
Did you have a drinking problem?
What do you mean? Does everybody who drinks have a drinking problem?
Did you have a drinking problem?
I have taken a drink through my mouth. That's not a problem.
No.
What are you talking about?
Well, I'm sure if you didn't have a drinking problem, you just say, no, John, I never had a drinking problem. Did you have a drinking problem?
No.
A bit like you don't have a cigar smoking problem?
No, I'm not saying. I mean, this is your forte, isn't it?
What?
You've got to rush straight to you've got a drinking problem, or you rush straight to you've got a sex problem, or everything's got to be a problem.
You've got a sex problem.
Thank you, John.
Thank you, Father Bob.